So today's QuickBook webinar is brought to you by California Women's Center's webinar program hosted by Canterbury Business Center. My name is Irma Vargas and I'm with Canterbury Business Center, and I've worked in the private and public sectors for over 25 years. Johnny Smedio is going to teach us today about QuickBooks, and he graduated from the University of California, Riverside and earned his bachelor's degree in business administration accounting in 1998, and he completed his master's degree in business administration and finance in 2000. John is the owner of ICE Tax Pro, and he has a wealth of information. This QuickBooks 101 class is just going to touch the basics. And so please ask questions. Down the road, you will have an opportunity to, if you'd like, to reach out to John through the either Canterbury Business Center or the Women's Business Center in San Diego. So we appreciate you being here. It's all about QuickBooks 101 today. And John, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background, and then take it away.
Sure. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. It's this year 2020, we are, we're here with so many things that we want to get together. We want to get together with our friends or businesses, and not only do we want to connect with people, but we also need to connect with our own finances. And one of the basic things is that we need to have a map, have a direction of where our business is going. In order to do that, we need to have a platform, and the platform that I particularly have loved to use in the QuickBooks bookkeeping area happens to be QuickBooks Desktop. And also we have QuickBooks Online. One of the things that we're going to discuss today is number one is estimates, how to write up an estimate, how to get that estimate and create it into an invoice. And after we do the invoices, the articles and services that we have, also the account catalog, and also verifying records. So let us know, Irma, once you're ready. Okay, so today it looks like we have a few things highlighted here, and I'll start from left to right. On your left, you have estimates. The estimates area in QuickBooks Desktop. Remember, at this point, I need you to understand that you're in the world of desktop. So a desktop means that you have purchased the software directly from QuickBooks. QuickBooks has given you an account access code, and they allow you to have this directly onto your computer. When you have this on your computer, that means that you have it in one station, one unit, your computer. The computer, your computer, will be the only one to house the information that you have. So you're going to have to also back it up. Very important. So the second highlighted area is create invoices. Creating invoices, this is where we write invoices in. And also, by the way, estimates can be made into invoices. On the far right, we have chart of accounts. One of the shortcuts, just so you know how to get to chart of accounts. By the way, this whole window is called home. So it's called the home area. So the chart of accounts, the shortcut would be Control A, and Control A would get you into chart of accounts. Chart of accounts happens to be like the skeleton of what's going on with all your accounts, whether they're liabilities, assets, whether they are expenses, income, cost of goods sold, etc. Items and services are obviously listed items that you sell or you have services, and you describe them, and that's what shows up on an invoice. And finally, the far lower right is checks register, and that's your check register is obviously where your bank account is held. Thank you very much, Irma, for holding that there. We'll go on to the next one. Okay, so estimates, remember that a lot of people, when they get to know your business, the business is your business is there to make a proposal, make an estimate, make a what if scenario. Okay, so if the person is interested in your services, products, then you can propose a proposal or an estimate. And in the template area, I wish this was live so you guys can see it live, but just imagine that down arrow actually allows you to choose different templates within proposal. So maybe you have one business, maybe you have two businesses, maybe you have three businesses. So you can have proposals for each of the businesses, or perhaps you have different uh, proposals within your own business. So very important. Estimates are very important, and they can be converted into the final invoice. We're ready. Now we're finally in invoice. We're ready to invoice, and one of the things that I absolutely love about this is you have to actually, if you look at the very top shows customize the layout. So a lot of people ask me, "Hey John, how can I get my invoice looking like it's my invoice and not just a generic invoice?" Well, when you go to customize, it will allow you to put your logo. It will allow you to change the font style, the size. It will allow you to put everything the way you want it. Um, and so that area, I would highly recommend that you click onto that and really get that invoice looking like it's coming from you, from your company. Maybe you have a logo, maybe you have colors that identify your company. Anyhow, once you feel confident about that template, then you have the template which is yellow, and maybe it's Intuit service invoice, or maybe I personally call it the official my official invoice. And on your far left, it'll say, oh, I'm sorry. Let me go to the left of template. It's called customer job. So customer job, that's actually, that's actually your customer. So let's say you have 5 customers. So your customer one will be maybe Joe Smith, right? And Joe Smith, once you type in Joe Smith, if it is not recognize Joe Smith, then obviously you're gonna have to include and include his driver license. I'm sorry, his um, his address, his cell phone number, his website, just so you have like a database. Very important to fill that out. Once you have that, where you see build two will actually show up with Joe Smith's information, his address, his basically everything that you have in the system. Next, where it says item will allow you to uh, find out whether it's let's say it's a certain product you like. I'm going to use my example. My example, I'm an accountant. And as an accountant, I have several businesses or several services within my business. So if the person, yes, where it says item, correct, item, and then if I type in tax season, for instance, tax season, and maybe I have tax season basic, then it'll I just put in basic and it'll populate, and then I'll say how many basics do I want? Quantity, maybe one, or maybe it's for a family. I have two or three, right? And then the description will automatically populate, and it will state what a basic it is in essence, right? So um, all right. So very good. Now, I love this. So this is what I wanted to look at before, because this area is the customization, and this is what I talked to you about earlier. This area will actually allow you to click in or click out of the items that you need on your invoice. So for instance, if I have a need for PO numbers, or if I have a need for terms, then I click those. But if I don't have a need for those, then obviously they are not necessary, so I unclick them. Now, if you see at the very top, we're in the area of header. If I actually move to the right, I'm now in column. Then I'm in programs. I can hardly see that program cuts or something of that sort. But the one that I always use is I will always use header, and then from there I go down at the very bottom where it's highlighted, and I choose layout designer, and that will allow me to design my invoice. So let's go to the next one, would be good. Okay, Irma, on to the next one. Okay, beautiful. So now so this is, yeah, this is my QuickBooks presentation. So I'm familiar with this one. It is really cool where you can put your logo. Maybe you want to add the image, and of course the image, of course, would be your logo. Maybe you want the logo in the middle, to the right, to the left. Anyways, you drag and drop, and you resize it however you wish. And this layout area will allow you to get that invoice just the right way that you want it to be. Okay, let's go to the next one. By the way, I always tell people, please take at least 2, 3, 4, 6 hours to get the invoice right. A lot of people say, "Oh, I just want a generic invoice, and just whatever QuickBooks populates out, and then I'll just shoot it out." Remember that how many invoices do people get, especially if they're a big company? They probably get hundreds of invoices. So you want your invoice to stand out. So you want your invoice to have your information, your most current information, and it should be it should state who you are and what services you provide. To the right, it shows. Of course, you can center it. Left left justify, right justify, or you can go top, bottom, right. So the whole, and that font area is so important. There's certain fonts that I absolutely despise, and other fonts they're more pleasant to the eye, at least my eye. So I always love to play around with the fonts. So we can go ahead. Okay, now this area is your services, and these are the services that you provide. So for instance, if you want to add a brand new service, on your lower left-hand corner, it will show you uh, a, it will show you a label that says item. You probably see it there in yellow. Now that item list will allow you to have several options. First option is called new. Also, you can do a control N, that sort of like a shortcut. And then you have edit. Let's pretend that you do have a new service and you are putting it in there. And you do a new control N, or just uh, click and drag into new. And let's say you want to, you don't want to call it that name anymore. So all you have to do is just go to edit. Instead of new, you go to edit and you will edit that out. Okay. Let's go to the next one. All right. Once we'll allow people to what once we'll allow people to to put in their services, it's important to inform everybody, is this a service? Is this a discount? Is this a payment? So all those choices that you see there are exactly what you are programming into your system. And let's go to the next one, please. The next thing is, it's so I have articles of and services. They will allow you to write in your item, your item name. This is what appears to you. Also, you have subtitle. Sometimes you have a sub account within your item. Also, we have description. This is what the client actually sees on their invoice. The rate of what you're charging. And then of course we have the account where it's going to actually land. Okay. Okay. All right. So the next thing is, we have the account catalog. So the account catalog, this is an area where we end up organizing whether we have fixed assets, whether we have current liabilities, of course, your bank accounts. Sometimes people have bank accounts that are, maybe they have their savings account and their checking account, and they may transfer from one account to the other to fund their activity. So a lot of people need to understand to not commingle, and that's why you would have multiple bank accounts. So then below that, it will also allow you to have expenses, and that's what most people see on their profit and loss expenses. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, so this is where it shows up. In this area, you have, it basically says, okay, what kind of account do you want to set up? Do you want to set up an account that has an income account? Is this an expense account? Is this an asset account or a bank account? Maybe it's a credit card. So this will allow you to know exactly what account and where it's going to populate into the profit and loss or the balance sheet. So let's go to the next one. All right. So in this area, I first want you to pay really close attention to the top. There's a drop down menu. So let's say that you call it something's called something income. So and then you say, hey, wait, that isn't really income. That's more like an expense. So you actually have the option to drop down that menu and to rechange that even though you called it income. So it's very important that you categorize the items and actually know what they are, whether they're expenses, whether they are loans, whether they are assets, or maybe they are inventory. Very important that that is categorized correctly. Of course, once it is, then of course your account name is important because once you put the name, then you can actually have a sub account name. The sub account name, for instance, I'll give you an example. There's an expense in the IRS that it will ask you for auto expenses, right? Auto and truck expenses. Within those auto and truck expenses, you actually can have more details. So those sub accounts are like that would be something like gas, repairs of the vehicles, maybe maybe maintenance, parts, things of that sort. But at the end of the day, they are all part of auto and truck expenses. So very important. Description, of course, you can put a little description in there. Usually I don't, but then of course you save and close from there. Let's go to the next one. All right, so check register. So if you remember back when we were in home, uh, at the very first screen that had a few items that were lit up in yellow. On the far right, on the very bottom, there was a check register, and this is what it looks like. Once you go to check register, uh, then you will be able to write in or data input the transactions that happened for that month. So usually clients ask me, John, how often should I do my bookkeeping? So bookkeeping should obviously be done at a minimum by month. And actually, I highly recommend that it is done at the order that the bank account registers. So a lot of people uh, they say, well, I have a few transactions and they're pending, and sometimes they come in, or sometimes they do not come in. So that's why I always like to take a look at the finalized bank account that ends up in your bank portal at the end of the month. So now you have, for instance, right now that we're closing up the month of April, then the month of April will be ready. Let's take a look at what day it is today. It's 29th. So it should be ready by what? Friday? By Friday, most people will have their finalized bank statement of April, and then they can reconcile and make sure that they have all their month activity through April. So anyways, we can go ahead and go to the next one. Are there any questions at this moment? Irma, do you see any questions coming in?
No questions. Um, please feel free to ask questions. We know that this is just a basic QuickBook overview. And so what are some of the other topics regarding QuickBooks that you would like to touch upon if you're already using QuickBooks. Maybe an issue that you've had that John can address. And I'll give you a minute. The webinar is being recorded and will be available for replay, I believe, on the website, the San Diego Women's Business Center website. Someone said they use QuickBooks Online. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online, John?
Sure. So first of all, a lot of people ask me, what's better? I mean, I get, that's a first question. What's better? Is it QuickBooks Online or is it QuickBooks Desktop? The answer to that general question would be really, how are you going to use it? And that question means, are you going to be a mobile type of person that you're always on the go and you need information on your phone? If that's the type of person that you are, then I would definitely recommend QuickBooks Online, which we are in our field, we call it QBO. And if you are more of a sit down person, oh, I like to sit down and just put everything down once I get to my computer, then I would highly recommend that you do QuickBooks Desktop. Now, a lot of people are talking about QuickBooks Online because there's a lot of benefits to it. So I'll go ahead and describe some of the benefits, some of the pros and cons, because it's fair to put in also the cons. So the pros, let's start with the pros of QuickBooks Online. The pros is that, number one, it has a beautiful interface. For me, beautiful interface basically means it's appealing to the eye. It makes sense. It's very intuitive. Number two, it has auto bank feed, and that's a big one. I mean, auto bank feed is perhaps one of the most important things of QuickBooks Online. What that means is it connects your bank account that you have. So let's say you have a checking account, and that checking account directly comes in from your bank. So let's say I do Wells Fargo, I have an account with Wells Fargo, or maybe I have two accounts. I have an account with Bank of America. It actually links up. Those accounts link up, and they get downloaded into your QuickBooks Online automatically. And now you have all the data. You don't have to enter anything. However, you do have to categorize it, because some of those categorizations, the system will think that it's a certain item. So most of the time it will remember, but you're going to have to write in rules. That's exactly what it's called, rules. So anytime you see Exxon, it means it's an auto expense, right? Anytime you see ABC properties, that's my rent, right? So those are the type of rules you have to state, so that in the future, the feeds come in, almost all of it will almost be done. So those are the benefits. The negatives, or the cons, would be that you have a monthly fee. So the monthly fee can be anywhere from $40 to $60 per month. And so let's say the person, the business owner, sets up with QuickBooks Online, and they don't use it 1 month, they don't use it 2 months, maybe they don't use it for like 4 to 6 months. They're still going to pay for those 4 to 6 months. And so let's just call it $40. $40 times 12, that's almost $500. So versus desktop, it's only about $300 to $400. So in about a year's worth, you on desktop you get the software paid, but at the same time it's yours to keep forever, and they're not gonna charge you again. So that's why I love QuickBooks Desktop, but at the same time I see the power and I see the convenience of using your cell phone and being mobile. So that's where I hope that clears up that question.
So John, we do have several questions. The next one is, doing payroll via QuickBooks, does it calculate taxes?
Yes. So the first question, well, the first comment that I have about that is when you have QuickBooks, it does not come with QuickBooks payroll automatically. You actually, that's kind of like an add-on. So whether you're on QuickBooks Desktop or your QuickBooks Online, you have to add that on. And that add-on will cost you a little extra, but once it comes in and you have it in your system, whether online or desktop, and you start calculating, not only does it calculate your FICO, your Medicare, all the deductions that need to be calculated, but it also does it for your state. So in this state, we're in the state of California, so all your EDD reports will be auto calculated for you, and your W-2s will be done automatically. I mean, it's a wonderful system. Once it's set up correctly, it works seamlessly, and it's well worth the extra money that they do charge you for that.
Terrific. The next question is, why would I want to use QuickBooks for my business versus regular Excel?
Sure. So there's a concept of double entry versus single entry, and single entry, uh, basically single entry is the bookkeeping that's done through Excel, and Excel just sees one side of the picture. Remember, in proper bookkeeping, there are debits and there are credits. Everything has to balance. And if you have single entry, then you don't know what's going on the other side. So there's always debits and credits. They have to balance, and that's why we have reports such as trial balance. We have reports such as balance sheet. We have other reports that are more advanced, that there's no way you can do that with single entry, which would be Excel. If you do, I mean, it used to be done through Excel, but it used to take hours and hours and hours. So for us nowadays, you have to use some sort of software. In my life, I've been using QuickBooks for 18 years, and I have been tempted by going to other platforms. I have tried other platforms, but guess what? I end up coming back to QuickBooks just because it's so robust, so complete, and it just, to me, it makes total sense. So hopefully that helps.
Okay, and the next question is, can you link your bank account with QuickBooks?
Well, remember what I said. The first example was QuickBooks Online is automatically uh, it will automatically link. I wish I had the platform so I can show you how it works. But from memory, on your upper left corner, you have a menu. The menu, you go into banking. Then from banking, you go into banking again. Then once you go to banking, then it will ask you, well, who do you bank with? Do you bank with Chase, with Wells Fargo, with, who's your bank? Of course, you choose whoever your bank is. Then it will ask you. It will ask you for, of course, the passwords, It'll send you a security code to your cell phone, or it'll call you, whatever it goes through, security purposes. And then finally it links up, and those feeds, those bank feeds, go directly into your QuickBooks Online. Now, a lot of people ask me, hey, John, forget about QuickBooks Online. Let me just do QuickBooks Desktop. Well, we can do QuickBooks Desktop, and then they'll ask me, well, can I do bank feeds from there? And the answer is yes, but you have to hire a third-party company. There are third-party companies that do bank feeds into QuickBooks Desktop, and of course, they do charge you a monthly fee, and it comes in basically the same way, and you can have a memorization, um, what we call rules in QuickBooks Online. We call them rules. We can put rules in, and then the next bank feed, you'll have less work to do, less categorization, because most of those feeds will already have those rules in it once you set in the rules.
Terrific. Do you know what the cost for QuickBooks is, John?
You know what? What I can do is go live right now and give you the prices right now. So a lot of times, a lot of people say, hey, John, you said that the QuickBooks costs this much. And, when I go into their system, it's telling me now that it costs this much. Of course, you guys. Right now, as we speak, today, let's take a look at today's date. Today is April 29th, 2020. They have a special. And the special for QuickBooks Online is, if you go to website, their website is quickbooks.intuit.com. And once you go there, they'll tell you what their specials are for today. Sometimes those specials will be available for a month, for a week, for 3 days. So usually the prices are at the top, and they'll say there's a simple package, which is $25. Then there's a essentials package, which is $40. There's a plus package, which is $70. And then on your far right, it'll tell you, okay, QuickBooks Pro, it's $300. So right now they have an $8 fee and a $12 fee and $21 fee. A lot of people also ask me, well, what's the difference between simple versus essentials versus plus? And it's very important to know that when it comes to, hey, I'm just a sole proprietor. I have a few transactions. I really don't have a lot going on. So I would recommend just start with the basic. But as soon as you have a business that's strong and that has a lot of activity, I would either go to Essentials or go to Plus. Essentials is a platform that will give you a little bit more robust options. If I look at their list, it looks like the Essentials has schedule invoicing and enter employee timesheets. There's several things that includes. But then on Plus, there's an item called Plus, and Plus actually has inventory. So really, for people that have a business that's service based, then I would recommend Essentials. For a business that is a product based, that you resell products, and that's, you have to have inventory, that because of that you need Plus. So hopefully that answers that question. And by the way, also QuickBooks has another product that's called Self-Employed, and Self-Employed is just usually it's $15, and right now it's just $1 a month. So super discounts at this moment. I don't know if it's because of COVID-19 or what it is, but super discounts. This is a good time to hook up with these people.
And we have another question. So when you have QuickBooks Online or using QuickBooks Online, does that mean that you can only use it on mobile? Or
Oh,
is it
okay, okay, good
computer as
question.
well?
Yeah, whoever asked that question, really good question. Um, listen, when you're sitting down in your computer at home at your office, whether at home or at your office, and you're behind a computer, of course you have access to your QuickBooks Online. But if you're on the road and you want to look at the last invoice because you're going to go visit a client and you need to make an adjustment to your invoice or your proposal, whatever it is, you have access to that directly onto your phone. So that's why um, so to answer the question, the question is, can I only use it on my phone? No, you can use it on your phone. You can use it on your laptop, on your computer that you're standalone. As long as there is internet capabilities, then then you're hooked up 100%. Now, also, I wanted to add this up. I don't think I talked about this, but it's very important that you know that nowadays with so much technology and so many things going on, um, you don't know how many times this happened to me, and I would say this might have happened 10 to 12 years ago. For some of you that might be eons ago, but I remember when I used to back up back in the days, because I've been doing this 18 years. So um, one of the last times I backed up about 10 years ago, my actual backup storage got corrupted. So I actually lost all my data. So for me, it really changed my life. And about 10 years ago, I actually started adopting cloud-based options. So I became a cloud accountant 10 years ago, even though I've been an accountant nearly 2 decades. So for 10 years, because of that disaster that I had, it was actually in 2012. I can remember the year. In 2012, I had a huge disaster, which I started a new office. I had, uh, I had like 2,400 square feet of space, and I had a lot of clients, and I remember that I lost this data, and I said, no, I need a solution, and cloud-based was just emerging during that time. And then I said, you know what, I got to go that route. And now QuickBooks Online is 100% cloud-based. So that means that if for whatever reason your computer, your cell phone falls in the pool, your computer has a heart attack, and you suddenly can no longer work with that unit, whether it's a tablet or it's a computer or it's a cell phone, then all you do is just replace it and you're back up and running, because you as long as you know your password and you have everything's cloud based. So that's one of the most beautiful things about QuickBooks Online, even though right now it's super cheap because of COVID-19 and all that. So right now is the time to actually, um, and I wish I would get royalties for talking them up because, um, but anyhow, hopefully that answers your question.
The next question is, are updates included on the in the online version of QuickBooks?
Oh, love it. Great question. Second great question. Well, all the questions are good, but these last two questions are super good. This question is incredibly important. Um, when imagine when you're when you're working, and all of a sudden the computer tells you, hey, there's an update. Well, you have to wait for the update. The update has to come in, and it'll take, you have to restart your computer, and it might take half an hour or an hour, whatever. Well, guess what? All those that's for the actual desktop version. But when it comes to online, it's automatic. You never know when it's happening. You don't ever have to do updates. It is like all the technology is updated on the spot. So maybe they do the updates at 1 in the morning or 12 at night or 3 in the morning when you're fast asleep. All those updates are being done for you without you even knowing it. So, and the security, by the way, and the security, that's usually a follow-up question. The security is highly, um, it's high-end security, which means that it's very difficult for people to hack into your system, because they have what they call bank level security. So as long as nobody knows your password, then all your information is private. Okay.
And then, John, I think one of our final questions is, when printing a check with 15 invoices, QuickBooks Online does not show all the invoices paid. How can I get to print all the invoices in an extra page?
I would have to take that question on a personal level. I don't know if there's a way that we can connect with that subscriber, that student of ours, because I would really like to walk them through it. Because right now, since I'm on a static, I should say, static area, I can't show step by step how to do that. So I would rather take that question as a one-on-one question, if possible. I'll be more
Okay,
than happy to do that.
terrific. So we'll get that information out to you by email, and we'll connect that way. Then there any other questions? Any other questions? I don't see any other questions. There was a question on if you have any thoughts on waveapp.com, if you've heard of that or not. John.
Wave app? No, I have not. I would
Okay.
assume that it's bookkeeping, accounting platforms, but I don't know anything about that. I know the only ones that I know is that compete with QuickBooks are like companies such as Xero, spelled Xero, Xero. There's Mint, which is a small version of QuickBooks, but no, I have not heard of the one that they asked about.
Okay, terrific. Well, we've come to the end. I just want to mention that California's Women's Business Centers webinar program is funded by the SBA. There are 13 women's business centers in California serving the community close to you. You can see a map, and you can also follow them on California, on Facebook at California WBC Network. I also want to mention that our next webinar through this organization is Amazon and e-commerce, and it's on Wednesday, May 13th. You can see all the classes that are available on their website as well, which is the San Diego Women's Business Center. And John, we really appreciate you, and we thank you all for coming out today.